Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. والصلاة والسلام على أشرف المرسلين سيدنا ونبينا حبيبنا وشافعنا محمد رسول الله صلى الله تعالى عليه وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi ta'ala wa barakatuhu. Alhamdulillah, we are blessed and we are thankful that we have reached Ramadan Kareem. Alhamdulillah, it is a blessed time and it is an important time to remember and to give thanks to Allah and to praise Him and to praise His beloved sallallahu alaihi wasallam. All praise and thanks are due to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and the peace and blessings of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala be upon His beloved sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Before starting, I'd like to thank the MECCA Center for allowing me and inviting me to do this series. And they suggested the idea based on what I usually talk about, alhamdulillah, about connecting to the beloved sallallahu alaihi wasallam, to our Habib, the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And most of what I am intending to speak about is things that we all know as Muslims, basic things. It shouldn't be any surprise to anyone. Perhaps you learn something new. If you do, alhamdulillah, that's great. But this is just to serve as a reminder to myself and to everyone who inshallah may take benefit from this video and this series, inshallah. So Islam is such a religion that it calls us to obey Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in all things that are big and small. Ati'u Allah wa ati'u Rasula wa ulil amri minkum. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is calling us to His obedience and to obey His Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam and to obey those who teach us our religion. And in every moment of our lives, Allah has made it possible to be in connection with Him. A Muslim is never cut off from his God, from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Even when we don't have wudu, Allah still makes it possible for us to reach Him through tasbihat, subhanallah, walhamdulillah, wa la ilaha illallah, wallahu akbar. These words that are beloved to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, subhanallah wa bihamdihi, subhanallah al-azim. Even if you are in such a position where you need to take a shower, you can still recite these tasbihat and these praisings to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and be in connection with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The best of worship in Islam is prayer. When you pray your daily prayers, you are in immediate connection with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala without any intermediary. As soon as you begin to recite and you say Allahu Akbar and you recite the Fatiha, you are in dialogue with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. You are saying Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen, and He is responding, my servant has praised me. You are in immediate dialogue with the Creator of the worlds. So Islam is such a religion that it's not leaving its followers to be cut off from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for even a moment. So in every moment of our lives, every second, everything that we're doing, whether we're sitting, whether we're standing, whether we're eating, whether we're drinking, whether we're showering, whether we're putting our clothes on, whether we're going to sleep, whatever it is, Allah and His Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam have taught us what to say at what time in order to be in constant connection with Him. So Islam is such a blessed religion, and the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam has taught us that we can be in connection with Allah and be in connection with Him as well, sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And this is the purpose of all the teachings of Islam. This is the purpose of all the teachers in Islam. Every sheikh, every da'i, every person who calls to Islam must call people to go to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. If you find somebody who's claiming to be a sheikh, or claiming to be a preacher, or claiming to be an ustad, or a whatever it is, and they're calling people to themselves, then they are deluded, and they are sending people to something that is incorrect. Because Islam calls people to La ilaha illallah Muhammadur Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and the correct understanding is you must reach Muhammadur Rasulullah before you can reach La ilaha illallah. And what I mean by this is that in order to understand true tawheed, in order to understand what it means that there is only one God and that God is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, first you have to go to the one who teaches you that, which is Muhammadur Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. He is Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So all teachers, all shuyukh, all people who are claiming to be teachers of Islam, scholars of Islam, these people must take you to the Prophet. They can't claim to be able to take you to Allah directly, but just by their classes. Oh, you take this class with me, or you follow me for a couple of years, I will take you myself to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That doesn't work that way. Their purpose is to take you to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, who can then teach you what it means to believe in your Lord and what it means to believe in one God. So we have to understand that Islam is something that is living. and its Prophet is living. The Prophet of Islam is living, as we believe all prophets are living. And our proof of this is that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us that those who die in the way of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala are not dead. They are provided for in their graves in a way that our intellect cannot comprehend. And if this is the reality of someone who is a follower of a religion, then what about the one who brought that religion? What about the one who is the axis upon which that religion revolves around? And what about the one who is Sayyid al-Anbiya wal-Mursaleen, Sayyid al-Awwaleen wal-Akhirin, the best of mankind, the best of creation, Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam? Then what is his state in the grave? So we won't go into too much detail about that, because we are, inshallah, hoping that all of us who are watching believe that the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam is alive and hearing and seeing in his grave. Inshallah, we won't go too much into detail about that. But this is our belief, and what we are trying to do here is connect to him, sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So what does it mean to connect to him? What does it mean to connect to him? It doesn't just mean just to read about his sunnah, just to read about his life. That is one way of connecting. But there's a real living and real connection that does take place with the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And to illustrate what we're talking about, inshallah, I'll relate one story that I heard from Habib Ali Jifri, in which he relates a story about Sayyidina Aba Yazid al-Bistami, Qaddasallahu sirru. So maybe you have heard his name. Sayyidina Aba Yazid al-Bistami is a very famous saint in Islam. And he, actually, his grandfather was a Zoroastrian. He was a fire worshipper. His grandfather was a fire worshipper. And he, Sayyidina Aba Yazid al-Bistami, was, alhamdulillah, Muslim after his father converted. So he was born Muslim, but he didn't know too much about Islam. So he was coming to the age around 13, 14, 15 years old. He's coming of age. And he begins to notice that he's changing intellectually, physically. Things are happening to him where he's starting to notice that I don't think I'm a child anymore. So he goes to his mother and he says, "Oh, my mother, I think your son is becoming a man." And she looks at him and she says, "Oh, what makes you say that? Have you seen your Prophet? Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam." Look at the question she asks him. She doesn't ask him, "Oh, what makes you say that? Oh, because you're getting taller, or because you're becoming more intellectual, or because you notice some changes." What? No, she asks, "Did you see your Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam that you think you're becoming a man?" And Sayyidina Abu Yazid al-Bistami, he's confused by this. He says, "What do you mean, have I seen my Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam? Can you see him? He's dead." He says it like that. And his mother says, "Don't speak about your Prophet this way. Don't say that he's dead. He's not dead. He's alive, and he's hearing and he's seeing." And she says, "Have you seen him that you're claiming to be a man?" And he says, "No, my mother, I have not seen him." So she says, "You have to see him before you can claim to be a man." And in this sense, what she's talking about is spiritual maturity, not just physical maturity, to grow a beard and to put a big turban on and to walk around as if you're something, right? That's not manhood. And manhood here is genderless. Spiritual maturity relates to both men and women. So what she's speaking about is spiritual maturity. Do you think you're spiritually mature? Do you think you have grown as a person and you have yet to see your Prophet? So Sayyidina Aba Yazid al-Bistami, he asks his mother, he says, "Oh, my mother, how can I see him? How can I see him?" So she says, there's 4 things you have to do in order that you may reach such a thing, that you can see your Prophet. And Sayyidina Habib Ali Jifri, he mentions 4 things. And I have heard other scholar mentions 5 up to 6 things, and we'll mention all of them, but for this series, we're going to focus on these 4. So the first thing she says is you have to read Salawat in abundance. So in Urdu, we say Durood Sharif. In Arabic, it's Salah ala Nabi. It's prayers of peace and blessings upon the beloved Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. So this is the most famous of which is what we recite in our prayer. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ala ali Muhammad kama sallaita ala Ibrahim wa ala ali Ibrahim innaka Hamidum Majid, and to the end. And there are other formulas that the Prophet ﷺ himself taught the companions, and other formulas that the companions themselves composed, and there are others, and thousands and thousands and thousands, if you look into it, books and books and books of different formulas, different ways to read prayers and peace upon the beloved ﷺ. So she said, read as much as you can in abundance. And whenever you see this word in abundance, they never really mention a number. So a lot of us, we think, oh, I have to read 200, or I have to read 500, or I have to read 1,000, or I have to read 10,000. There's really no number. The point is abundance. And we'll get to that inshallah later in this installment about how much to read and so on and so forth. But she says the word in abundance. The next thing she says, the second thing you have to keep in mind after reading Durood Sharif, Salawat ala Nabi in abundance, is to venerate his sunnah. Ta'zimun li sunnati. The meaning, you have to respect and honor and love everything that the Prophet ﷺ did and everything that he left behind, his legacy. All of his teachings, whether it be prayers or whether it be things that he used to do or foods that he used to love to eat or things that he used to encourage others to do. This is all part of honoring, venerating, loving, respecting the sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ. And like I said, we'll get into more detail later in the installments of this series, inshallah. First thing, read abundant salawat. Second thing, venerate, love, honor, and respect and follow his sunnah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. The third thing is to be attached to his presence. To be attached to his presence. And what this means is that you feel like you are approaching him. You feel like he is with you, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, in your daily life. And you feel like he is hearing you as you read salawat. He's hearing you as you say, as you speak with others, as you do your things throughout the day. He's seeing you. This is what it means to be attached to his presence, sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So the first thing we have to keep in mind is reading abundant salawat. The second thing is respecting, honoring, following the sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ. And the third thing is to be attached to his presence, to feel and to know that he is there, looking at us, watching us, seeing and hearing us. As he has told us in hadith that I observe the actions of my nation. And if they do good, I praise and thank Allah. And if they do bad, I seek forgiveness on their behalf. So the fourth thing after that is to serve his ummah. To serve the nation of Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, to serve them, to serve your brother, to serve your sister, to serve your mother, to serve your father, to serve your neighbor. Everyone who you see is part of the ummah of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, because the scholars have told us there's two portions of the ummah. There's two portions. The first one is ummatul ijaba, the ummah, the nation that has accepted the call to Islam. So everyone who says Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah wa Ashhadu anna Muhammadan abduhu rasulullah, they are part of the ummatul ijaba, the ummah, the nation that has accepted the call to Islam. And the rest is also ummah. They are also the nation, but there are those who are still being invited and they haven't yet accepted. And they may accept, but they're still being invited and they're still counted as part of the ummah. And this is what it means to serve the ummah. It means to serve Allah's creation, to serve mankind. This is what you have to do, these four things. And the fifth and sixth things which we'll add, which is not part of what Habib al-Jifri mentioned, but another scholar and other scholars mentioned, is the fifth thing is to read about him, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, to read his seerah, to read his biography, to read his shama'il, to read his attributes, his characteristics, how his companions described him, to read this, to read these kinds of things about him, because the more you read about him, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, the more you will miss him, the more you will want to be with him, the more you will want to be like him, the more you will think about him, the more you will visualize, wow, what a time to be alive with Rasulullah, what a personality he was. And so to read these kinds of books is something that will increase your love for him, and so this is important. And the sixth thing is to spread the message of Islam. And so this doesn't necessarily mean that you have to go on the minbar and give a Jummah khutbah, or that you have to be an imam, or you have to be a scholar, but it just means to speak about Islam in your daily life. Speak to your family about them. If all of your family is Muslim, alhamdulillah, then it's easier for you. Then just sit together and make a time once a week or once a month where you just have a time, maybe it's 10 minutes, 20 minutes, half an hour, just speak about the Prophet ﷺ. Tell stories that each of you know. Maybe you know a story that your brother doesn't, or maybe your spouse knows a story that you don't, and you can share one that he doesn't know or she doesn't know. So this is the way you increase your love for the Prophet ﷺ in yourself and in your family, because when speaking about him, ﷺ, love for him grows. Love for him comes out of the heart. So this is also an important thing. But like I said, we'll just stick to the first four that we mentioned. So the first thing she advises her son to do, her son who thinks he has become a man, the first thing she says is you have to read salawat upon the Prophet ﷺ in abundance. The second thing you have to do is to venerate, to love, honor, and follow his sunnah. And the third thing is to be attached to his presence, be attached to him in thought, in action, in deed, in speech. And the fourth thing is to serve his ummah, to be at their service, and to be kind, to be polite to your fellow brother and fellow sister. So he says, okay, mother, inshallah, I'll keep this in mind. And he's so enthusiastic, and he's got it in his mind that this is his mission now, that if I truly want to be a man, become someone who is fully realized as a person, to become spiritually mature, I must see the Prophet ﷺ. So he begins to do these four things. Right? He reads abundant salawat, he respects the sunnah, he follows every sunnah that he can as much as he can, and he tries his best to keep Rasulullah in his heart at all times of the day and think about him, and to keep his presence with him, and to serve people as much as he can, until one day comes where he comes to his mother and he's happy and he's got a big smile and he says, "Oh my mother, I have seen my Prophet ﷺ." And his mother, her reply is, "Did you see him in a dream, or did you see him while you were awake?" And he looks at his mother and he says, "You can see him while you're awake?" He's surprised. He said, "What do you mean you can see him while you're awake?" And she says, "Yes, you can see him while you're awake." And he says, "No, I only saw him in my dream. I only saw him in my dream. How do I see him while I'm awake?" And she says, the four things that you did, do those same four things, but do them even more now. Increase whatever you've been doing, and do it with more love and more yearning, and truly, truly desire to see him as much as you can in your every waking moment, and ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to open that for you. So he goes back and he works on this day after day, day after day, day after day, increasing his salawat, increasing his love for the Prophet ﷺ, increasing his following of the sunnah. If he was leaving any sunnah out, now he's doing every single thing that he has learned about. If he hears about a sunnah, he picks it up and he does it. And he's doing his best to keep the Prophet ﷺ in his heart at all moments. And he's keeping his best manners and etiquette with his fellow brothers and Muslims. And he's doing his best to serve the creation. And at night, he can't sleep because he's reading salawat and he's crying, "Ya Allah, please join me with the beloved sallallahu alaihi wasallam in my waking moments and in my sleep." Until finally a day comes where he's got light on his face like the full moon, and he's so happy. And he goes excited to his mother. He says, "My mother." And she says, "Yes, my son." And he says, "My mother, I've seen my Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam while I was awake." And she says, "While you were awake?" And she says, "While I was awake." She says, "Now," look at what the mother says. She says, "Now you have entered into the first step of true manhood." This is just the first step in spiritual maturity, is to see the Prophet ﷺ in our waking moments. So this is the basis of this series, inshallah. What we're trying to accomplish here is to truly connect with the Prophet ﷺ in such a way that it leaves no doubt in our minds that the Prophet ﷺ is living, and that he is the one who teaches us and guides us to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Everyone else that you meet, every shaykh, every teacher, every person that you meet who is teaching Islam must instill that love for you in your heart for the Prophet ﷺ. And your job is to increase that love by following what you have been taught about Islam, by reading abundant prayers upon the Prophet ﷺ. This is what our intention is, and this is what will take us to our goal, inshallah. And so after hearing this story, we hope that we have been reminded that this is not only a possibility, but this is also what we should strive for. This is also what we need to strive for in our daily life. This is the purpose of our existence, is to worship Allah. And in order to enter into a state of true worship to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, we need someone who has done that. And the only one who can claim to be a true Abdullah, to be a true servant of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, is the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So this is what we are trying to do. And so this is something that takes time. Don't be impatient and say, "Oh, well, I've been reading prayers and I've been doing my best and controlling my anger and still nothing has happened." This is something that takes time, and it may take no time. This is up to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, but our job is to do it with happiness and with patience, and to bear whatever Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sends our way, as we will be rewarded for the time that we wait. The more you wait, the more rewards lie for you, because you are being patient, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is with those who are patient. So inshallah, we began with that story as an introduction to the series. And inshallah, we will now transition to um, detailing a little bit more about that first point, okay, about reading excessive and abundant prayers upon the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So, what I'm about to describe is the ideal situation. This is if everything lines up and if Allah blesses you with such an opportunity, this is what you ideally want to do in order to read prayers upon the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And what I'm talking about is the physical, outward etiquettes and manners of sending salawat upon the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So, if you haven't already, you want to establish a time during the day or the night where this is the time that you dedicate to Allah and His Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So the best time, obviously, is before Fajr. And we have been taught that during the night, especially during the last third of the night, just before Fajr, 2 hours or an hour before Fajr, this is the time you want to wake up, make fresh wudu or take a shower, put on clean clothes, and spend time remembering Allah and His Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So this is the best time. But obviously that's not a possibility for everyone. For some of us, that's difficult to get up 2 hours or an hour before. Even if it's 5 minutes or 10 minutes before Fajr, it's still a blessed time. So you find a time that's comfortable for you, a time that works with your work schedule, a time that works with your family schedule. You know, obviously with the whole quarantine situation, you may have more free time, so this would be a nice time to establish a routine. But ideally, you want to set up a time where you can continue even after you start work again, or when school starts again, or whenever you have something that comes up. You want a time that without fail you can stop whatever you're doing and be with Allah and His Prophet ﷺ in your home or wherever it is that you decide to do it. So for some of us, this is going to be before Fajr. For some of us, this will be after Fajr, before sunrise. For some of us, this will be at noon time, after the kids have their nap, and you know, whatever it is, this, you know, everyone will have their own time. So you figure out a time slot in your day where you can say, okay, I can set aside 10 minutes, I can set aside 20 minutes, 30 minutes, an hour. For sure, no one will disturb me, and everything will be taken care of, and I can go be with Allah and His Prophet ﷺ. So this is the ideal situation, okay? And why I say this, because ideally, what we want to do is read salawat upon the Prophet ﷺ throughout our entire day. Whatever we're doing, whether we're cooking, we're cleaning, we're reading, we're working, we're driving, we're riding on the train, whatever we're doing, we want to be thinking about Allah and His beloved ﷺ and reading prayers upon the beloved ﷺ. But what will really cause our hearts to be moved and turn towards Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and His Prophet ﷺ is to dedicate that specific time to Allah and His Prophet ﷺ, because when you do that, you are demonstrating to Allah that I am physically leaving and setting aside everything to be with you. The same thing, the same way that we do for our 5 prayers, that we leave everything and we drop everything and we physically face the Kaaba and we spiritually turn towards Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This is something that Allah likes. And this is not something that's unprecedented. This is the practice of the Sahaba, the practice of the Tabi'een and all those who followed them. They all had this practice where they would set aside extra time besides the 5 prayers, and they would have this time where they would read Quran, where they would do dhikrullah, where they would read salawat upon the Prophet ﷺ. So you want to set that up if you haven't already. Okay. The second thing is, when you go to that place, ideally you want it to be in a corner of the house where you dedicate that corner of the house or your room to that purpose. Okay. So if it's a corner of your bedroom, or if it's in the basement, if you have a finished basement, or the corner of your apartment, wherever it is, you want to have a spot where you just go there just for that purpose, because when you go there, again, it relaxes your mind and makes you forget about everything else except Allah and His Prophet ﷺ. So this is, again, ideal. Maybe not possible for everybody, but something that if you can do it, it's the best. Okay? And you will notice that when you go there, you will automatically be in that mood, and you will automatically be in that spiritual position where you will be ready to remember Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and His beloved sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And it's the same concept. When you go to the office, it's different from doing work at home, right? Maybe if some of you are working from home nowadays, you will understand that, right? If you're working on your laptop, sitting on the couch, it's different than if you actually go to the office, right? Your mind is in a different place. So we're trying to do the same thing here. Okay. After this, then what you want to do is put on nice clothes. Again, this is the same concept of when you go to work, you put on business attire. You don't show up to work in sweats and flip-flops and a tank top, right? You want to go to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in the best of clothes. And this isn't because Allah won't be happy otherwise, but this is for your own benefit. Because when you do this, then you're saying to yourself that I am going to see Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and His beloved sallallahu I am going to be in their presence. And if I'm not seeing them, then they're seeing me, and they're looking at my heart, and they're seeing with what intention I have come with. And this is the same concept of when you do qurbani, when you go to slaughter a sheep or a goat or a lamb, you pick the best one. You pick the most nice looking one, the healthiest one, not because Allah is going to eat it, right? Astaghfirullah, Allah is above that. But because this is part of the intention. This is part of the taqwa. This is part of what you're bringing to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala of your intention. So you want to wear the best clothes. And we know a brother of ours, and mashallah, Allah bless him, that he only reserved his best clothes, and still he reserved his best clothes just for the midnight prayers, just for that time when he does his extra prayers for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala before Fajr, and he reads zikr and he reads salawat upon the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. He reserves his best clothes. If you gift him a very nice jubba or a very nice vest or whatever it is, he will reserve that, and he will never wear it in public. You will never see him wear it in public. He just reserves that for his time with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And so Allah likes this. Allah sees the intention that you're coming to him with. And so when you wear that nice jubba, or when you wear those nice clothes, you will be showing Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that you are doing his best for him, and that you're coming to him with the best of intentions, and he will reward you for that without a doubt. And then likewise, you also want to put on a nice perfume, nice scent, something that reminds you of paradise, something that reminds you of the beloved sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And again, like I said, this is all stuff, this is ideal. This is the best case scenario, that if you can do this, and this is wonderful. So don't feel like, oh, this is impossible. This guy is describing, there's no way I can do this. But this is only for the sake of reminding ourselves what we want to work towards, okay? Okay, so after you've done all that, you're physically clean, and you are physically presenting yourself in front of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and His Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, then we look to what's inside. So inwardly, what is our inward state when we are reciting salawat upon the Prophet ﷺ? You want to do your best to think and to visualize and to be certain that Allah, His angels, and His Prophet ﷺ are seeing you, are hearing you, are watching you, and are responding to you. As the Prophet ﷺ has told us that through hadith, that the angels are asking forgiveness for the person who recites salawat upon the Prophet ﷺ. Allah Himself, Inna Allah wa malaikatahu yusalluna ala nabi, Ya ayyuha alladhina amanu sallu alayhi wa sallimu taslima, Allahumma salli wa sallim wa barik alayhi wa ala ali. Allah Himself is reciting prayers upon the Prophet ﷺ. Allah and all of His angels are doing this. And Allah has invited us, and not only invited us, but ordered us to do the same thing. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala didn't put any limit on it. He didn't say only do it this many times, or only do it at certain times of the day. He says, Sallu. He says, do it as much as you can. Do it in every waking moment with every breath. Do it as much as you can, because I myself am doing it. My angels are doing it. All believers, you do it as well. And the Prophet ﷺ has taught us that we are weak. We are weak. We are sinners. We can't send blessings upon the Prophet ﷺ ourselves. So what do we say? Allahumma salli. We say, Ya Rabbi, O our Lord, O Allah, you do it. You, on our behalf, send peace and blessings upon the Prophet ﷺ. So at the same time, when we were remembering Rasulullah ﷺ, we were remembering Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And this is adab, this is etiquette, this is manners, to understand that we are weak, we are sinful, and we are asking Allah to help us to reach the Prophet ﷺ. And so you can choose any formula that you wish. You can choose any way of saying peace and blessings upon the Prophet ﷺ as you feel comfortable. And the simplest of these is Allahumma salli ala Muhammadin wa ala ali Muhammadin wa sallim. This is the simplest, the shortest, the easiest that we can say. And there are many others. You can choose whichever one you feel comfortable with, whichever one you feel attracted to, that you feel, wow, this is beautiful, or whichever one you have been taught by your teacher. Whatever it is that you decide, you can choose. But choose one where it's easy for you to recite, easy for you to pronounce, where you don't feel that it's a challenge and you're stuck on, how am I going to say this, right? You don't want to be focused on that. You want it to be easy for you. And when you recite it clearly, recite it slowly, recite it with love. Don't be in a rush to reach a certain number and, I have to reach 1,000, otherwise, no. Don't be in a rush. And when you say Muhammad, taste the sweetness of that name, right? Taste the sweetness of that name and say Muhammad. Don't just say Muhammad. say Muhammad. The same way that the rules of Quranic tajweed teach us that when we have that meme, we say Muhammad. Muhammad. Allahumma salli ala Muhammadin wa ala ali Muhammadin wa sallam. Really take a moment to absorb the sweetness of that name and understand that that name is the link to everything that will open for us in dunya and in akhirah. So take your time when you're reciting salawat, and don't just rush, right? Don't rush just to complete it and get it over with, right? This is not homework. This is not busy work. This is what will take you to Allah and His Prophet ﷺ. So take your time with it. The same applies to reading Quran. The same applies to when you perform your prayers. So you want to take your time. As we heard that from one of our teachers, that Sayyidina Abul Hasan al-Shadili, when he would recite prayers upon the Prophet ﷺ, he had a daily number that he would read, right? Or maybe it was 1,000, maybe it was 2,000, maybe it was 10,000, right? A daily number that he would read. So one day he was getting behind and the day was going to end and he didn't reach his number, so he was reading quickly. And that night he saw the Prophet ﷺ in his dream. And the Prophet ﷺ told him, Ya Abul Hasan. He calls him by name. And he says, I like it better when you recite slowly. So the Prophet ﷺ is telling him, I like it better when you read slowly. So read slowly. Read slowly, take your time, enjoy. And know that numbers are important, and we'll get to that. But the importance is to have a presence of heart, to be doing it with the proper intention, and to understand that we are not just reciting just for the sake of reciting, right? Not just to be wagging our tongues, not just to be wasting our time. It's to bring about a certain change. And this is what we're trying to do as Muslims. In our every waking moment, we are trying to leave our egos, leave our egoistic desires, leave our bad manners, our bad characteristics, and adopt the good characteristics and good manners that the Prophet ﷺ has taught us. And to change our internal state. This is what we're trying to do. We are literally trying to change our inner state, right? We're trying to change what we think about, what we want. We are trying to change our inner states into a state that reflects what the Prophet ﷺ likes and what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala likes. So when you're trying to change your inner state, it's much more intense and much more complex than if you're trying to change your physical state, right? If you want to get clean physically, if you have dirt on your hands, you just go wash your hands. Maybe you don't even have to use soap, right? You just wash your hands for a few seconds and that's it. You're physically, your hands are clean. And you go take a shower, that's it. 10 minutes later, you're physically clean. But when it comes to cleansing the heart, when it comes to cleansing your inner state, that's something that takes time and focus. And nothing can replace that. There's no magical formula that you can just recite a few times and that's it. You will be magically turned into somebody who's a completely different person. That doesn't happen. You need to accompany your recitations with inner focus and inner intention. And the best of intentions is the Ya Rabbi, I'm intending to please you. Because when you reach Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's pleasure, you have reached everything. When Allah is pleased with His servant, there's nothing that the servant doesn't have, right? If Allah loves you, if Allah is pleased with you, there's nothing you will be deprived of in dunya and in akhirah. So this is the best of intentions. So I hope I'm not going beyond time. I wonder if there's a way that I can check if I'm going beyond time. But inshallah, I don't want to take too much of your time. But just to finish the etiquettes and outward etiquettes and outward manners of reciting salawat upon the Prophet ﷺ. So once you choose your formula, and again as we mentioned, the easiest is Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ala ali Muhammad wa sallim. Allahumma salli ala Muhammadin wa ala ali Muhammadin wa sallim. This is the easiest, the simplest. And start slow and start small, right? If the first day you find that you feel good with 100 recitations, then that's good. Keep that up. If the second day you feel like, okay, maybe I can do more, then you increase. But the key is to keep it up, right? Don't do 1,000 today and then drop it tomorrow, and then do 10,000 the next day and then do nothing the next day, right? Keep a solid practice. A little goes a long way, especially with the proper focus, right? If you read 100, if you read it 100 times and you read it with focus and with love and with yearning and slowly and really thinking about the Prophet ﷺ and feeling his presence, that will benefit you much more than if you're watching television and just going at it with your tasbih and reading it 1,000 times, right? That's not the same thing. But that being said, although that is the ideal situation where you put on nice clothes and you have, special clothes reserved just for that, and you have perfume reserved just for that, and you have a special corner in your house reserved just for that, and a special time, right? Besides that, do your best to fill your day and your night with remembrance of the Prophet ﷺ as much as you can. You're walking, you're sitting, you're standing, you're doing whatever it is that you're doing throughout your daily routine. Read prayers and peace upon the beloved ﷺ. And do your best to seek out and read, if you don't understand Arabic, then do your best to seek out translations of these prayers of peace and blessings upon the beloved ﷺ, because you will understand how beloved he is to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that Allah himself revealed so many different formulas, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and his angels are, who knows how many different kinds of formulas that they're using to pray upon the beloved sallallahu alaihi wasallam, send prayers of peace and blessings upon the beloved sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So what I mean is, for example, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in his enormous and immense generosity and mercy has taught us what he and how he greeted his Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam on the night of Isra and Mi'raj. Assalamu alayka ayyuhan nabiyyu wa rahmatullahi ta'ala wa barakatuhu. This is something that every Muslim is reading in their prayers, and your prayer is not accepted without it. So we have been taught at least one of the formulas that Allah himself used to say salam upon his Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Assalamu alayka ayyuhan nabiyyu wa rahmatullahi ta'ala wa barakatuhu. And there are so many others, and the more you get deeper into it, the more you realize that it's never ending, and it's never ending, and it's an ocean of beauty, really, of the different kinds of prayers and peace upon the Beloved sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So do look up different formulas, right? As you get deeper and deeper in your journey, you will begin to come across deeper and deeper formulas and longer formulas, and you will be utterly amazed by the different ways that Allah and his Prophet ﷺ and his angels and his righteous servants are praising the beloved sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So among these books, Afdal Salawat, Dalailul Khairat, Kunuzul Asrar, these different compilations of formulas of blessings, prayers of peace and blessings upon the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So do your best to look that up, and it will increase your love for the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Okay, so we have our clothes, we have our perfume, we have our special spot, special time, and we are sitting in front of Allah and his beloved sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Our internal state, we are visualizing either the physicality of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. If you have been blessed to see Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam in your dream, then do your best to remember that dream, to what you saw at that time, right? Or try to remember what it is that you saw, how you saw him, and contemplate on that. If we haven't been blessed with that, then maybe we have been blessed to go to Medina and to remember what it was like to be in Medina in Masjid al-Nabawi, and to remember what it was like to say salam to Rasul sallam, and to see the Rawdatul Mutahhara, to see the Qubbatul Khadra, the green dome of Rasul sallam. And when you go to Medina, sometimes you see people standing in front of the dome in awe, and they're just standing and just staring up at the green dome. Maybe they're reading Salawat, maybe they're just looking at it and just in amazement. Right? Just if you can visualize that and remember that while you're reading Salawat, this is one of the best ways to connect with the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And if you can't do either of those things, then just think about his characteristics, his attributes, his traits, how he was as a person, right? His mercy towards everyone who came to him, his compassion for every living creature. Think about how he is asking for his nation. This is Rasulullah's number one concern, is the salvation of his nation, right? Remember that you are loved, right? You, every Muslim, is loved by Allah and his Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. You are asked for. Rasulullah is asking for you. He's asking Allah to forgive you. So remember that, contemplate on that. Whatever it is you choose, but think about the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And this is the best way to connect with him, is to just think about him. Just think about him in any capacity that you can. Think about him. And our thoughts are what is inside our hearts, right? Don't think that your thoughts are separate and what is inside your heart is separate. You can have negative thoughts and have malicious thoughts and negative and evil thoughts and claim to have a clean and pure heart. That's not the way it works. Whatever is inside your heart will manifest in your thoughts, will manifest in your actions. So think about the beloved ﷺ, and he will reside in your heart and fill your heart. Allah will fill your heart with love for his beloved ﷺ. So this is our ultimate goal. And inshallah, I think this will be enough. I think we're almost at 40 minutes now, so I don't want to bore anybody and force anybody to listen to me anymore. Astaghfirullah. Thank you for listening, and may Allah forgive me if I have said anything wrong, and may Allah forgive you, forgive all of us, and remove all afflictions and all troubles that we are facing as a nation, and may Allah cure all those who are sick, and may Allah forgive all of our beloveds and all of our friends and family members who have passed away, and may Allah enter them into his paradises with no account, because this is truly a difficult time for all those who are facing such tribulations and such sicknesses and deaths in the family and among friends. So this is truly a difficult time, and we ask Allah, for the sake of the difficulties that we're going through, to forgive our sins and to enter us into his paradises with no accounts, and to count us among those servants of his that love him and love his beloved sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and love to approach him and his beloved sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and to make us among those who are with his Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam in our every waking moment. As Sayyidina Abul Hasan al-Shadili, as we mentioned him before, he has said, and he said about himself that he said, if I ever was removed from the presence of the Prophet ﷺ, if I ever was in such a state, in such a moment where I was not physically seeing the Prophet ﷺ while I'm awake, even for one moment, I would not consider myself a Muslim. So for him, the standard of being a Muslim, for him, the standard of being someone who believes in Allah and his Prophet, was to be joined with the Prophet ﷺ in his every waking moment. And so we're asking to be among those people who are joined with the beloved ﷺ in our every waking moment, in our sleeping moments, in our waking moments, and when we are walking, when we are sitting, when we are standing. We want to be with Allah and his Prophet ﷺ. So inshallah, may Allah accept us from us, and may Allah allow us to continue to do this, to remind ourselves and to remind each other, to love him, to love his Prophet ﷺ, and to love his creation. وآخر دعوانا أن الحمد لله رب العالمين ومن الله التوفيق بحرمة الحبيب وبحرمة سر سورة الفاتحة. اللهم صل على سيدنا محمد. اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين. والسلام عليكم ورحمة الله تعالى وبركاته.